I had just sold my biotech company, Apex Biodyne, for $60 million. To celebrate, I invited my only daughter, Emily, and her husband, Ryan Ford, to L'Orangerie, the most expensive restaurant in the city. I stepped away from the table to take the call, confirming the wire transfer. When I turned to go back, a young waiter blocked my path. He was terrified. "Mr. Shaw," he whispered, "I saw your daughter. When your son-in-law distracted you, she took a small vial from her purse and poured a powder into your wine." My blood ran cold, but I stayed calm. I walked back to the table, accidentally knocked over a water glass, and in the confusion, I switched my glass with Emily's. 15 minutes later, her eyes rolled back in her head and she collapsed. Before I tell you exactly what happened in that restaurant, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you believe that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you know the least. My name is Peter Shaw. I'm 68 years old, and for the last 3 years I've been a widower-hour. That $60 million wasn't just a number. It was the result of 40 years of my life, starting in a rented garage in Palo Alto with 2 employees and a dream. Despite the success, I never changed. I still live in the same 3-bedroom ranch house I bought with my late wife, Laura. I still drive a 7-year-old sedan. Laura, she was the smart one. She saw the world with a clarity I often lacked, and she never, not once, trusted Ryan. "He only looks at your checkbook, Peter," she'd warned me, her voice gentle but firm. "He doesn't see Emily. He sees a safety net." I'd always laugh it off. "He loves her. Laura, he's just ambitious." How wrong I was. Laura's been gone for 3 years, and her words echo in my head every time I see him. Emily and Ryan live a life I simply don't understand. They drive leased luxury cars that cost more per month than my mortgage ever did. They talk about clubs I've never heard of and vacations in places I've only seen in magazines. Ryan has some vague import-export business, but I'm a numbers man. I know he's drowning in debt. I've seen the letters mistakenly delivered to my house. My daughter, my Emily. She changed after Laura died. She grew distant, defensive, as if she were protecting him from me. But 6 months ago, when the news of the Apex Biodyne acquisition started leaking in the financial papers, they were suddenly present. "Dad, let us help you with your files. You shouldn't be handling all this paperwork alone. Dad, are you sure your investments are set up correctly for the transition?" Ryan knows a lot about this. I was so lonely, so desperate for the connection I'd lost that I welcomed their sudden interest. I mistook their greed for affection. Tonight at L'Orangerie, that affection was suffocating. The restaurant was a palace of crystal and white linen. We were at the best table overlooking the city lights. "Dad, you're a legend," Ryan said, raising his glass of $20 water. "To you, the man who built it all from nothing," Emily chimed in, her smile blinding. "We're just so proud of you, Daddy." But their eyes weren't proud. They were hungry. They were looking at me like I was a winning lottery ticket. They were finally ready to cash. "So, Dad," Ron said, leaning in with that familiar oily charm, "with the company officially sold, what happens to all that infrastructure, the shipping routes, all those climate-controlled containers?" It was a strange question. I'm in biotechnology. We ship sensitive, heavily regulated medical compounds. It's not like shipping sneakers. It's all part of the acquisition. "Ryan," I said slowly, "the new corporation takes over all assets. Why?" He just shrugged, taking a sip of his wine. "Just curious. Seems like a waste of good logistics." That's when my phone vibrated. The caller ID said, Banca Swiss, the final confirmation. I excused myself. I have to take this. As I walked away, I saw Ryan and Emily exchange a look I couldn't decipher, a look of anticipation. I walked out into the grand marble floored lobby. The call was brief, professional, and life-changing. Mr. Shaw, we can confirm the $60 million has cleared. Congratulations, sir. I hung up. I felt the weight of 40 years lift off my shoulders. I was free. I could retire. I could finally travel. I could. I turned around, and that's when I saw the young waiter. He was young, maybe 24. His uniform was immaculate, but his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold his empty tray. Mr. Shaw, he repeated, his voice, barely a whisper. My name is Evan. I'm sorry to bother you, sir. I'm new here, but I have to tell you something. I am a man who has run a multi-million-dollar company. I have faced hostile takeovers, corporate espionage, and shareholder revolts. I can read people. This kid wasn't lying. He was terrified. What is it, Evan? I asked, my voice quiet. Sir, I was refilling water at the service station right behind your table. Your son-in-law. He pointed to that large painting on the far wall. He asked your daughter a loud question about the artist. It was strange. It felt staged, like he was making sure you were looking away. My blood turned to ice. My breath caught in my throat. Go on, I said. The moment you both looked away, your daughter, she was fast. Sir, really fast. She took a small brown glass vial from her purse. She unscrewed the cap and she dumped a fine white powder into your wine glass. Then she swirled it just once and put the vial back in her purse. It took 2 seconds, maybe 3. A white powder, not a liquid, designed to dissolve. My mind raced. What was it? A poison to kill me here in a crowded restaurant with witnesses? That's messy. That's traceable. This was something else. This was something clinical. I looked Evan straight in the eye. His own were wide with fear. Are you absolutely certain you saw this? He swallowed hard, nodding. Yes, sir, 100%. I saw the vial. She hid it in her napkin right after, but I saw her put it in her purse when you stood up to take your phone call just now. That's why I had to stop you. This kid had just handed me my life. I reached into my wallet. I pulled out a stack of bills. It was $500. Evan, I said, placing the money in his hand. His eyes widened. You didn't see anything. You will finish your shift. You will go home. You will never speak of this to anyone, but you just saved my life. If you are ever in trouble, or if you ever need a job, you call this number. I handed him my personal card, the one that doesn't say CEO on it. Sir, I can't go, I said, my voice firm. And thank you. He vanished. I stood alone in the lobby for 10 seconds. The rage was a physical thing, a hot iron in my gut. My own daughter, my Emily, my little girl. But the rage wasn't in control. I was the CEO was. I smoothed my suit jacket. I composed my face into a mask of mild distraction. I took a deep breath and I walked back to the table. I sat down. The smell of the expensive food, the truffle oil, the seared scallops suddenly made me sick. Everything okay, Dad? Emily asked. Her smile was so bright, so radiant. It was the smile of a predator who had just set a perfect trap. Just work, I said, waving my hand dismissively. The lawyers are already finding loose ends from the sale. I picked up my wineglass, her wineglass, now, though she didn't know it. No, I set it down. Not yet. I had to be sure. I looked at my glass, the deep red Cabernet. It looked perfect, undisturbed. My mind raced back. Emily's comment from last week. Dad, you've been so forgetful lately. You missed our dinner reservation on Tuesday. I hadn't missed it. They had canceled it and told me I got the day wrong. I remembered Ryan's comment just 2 days ago. Peter, you seem confused. Are you sure you're okay to manage all this money alone? It all clicked. It wasn't poison. It was incapacitation. The powder wasn't meant to kill me. It was designed to mimic a stroke, to create sudden terrifying confusion, to make me look like I had snapped right after securing $60 million. They wanted to have me declared incompetent. I needed to make the switch. Ryan was telling a long, boring story about one of his import deals, something about textiles from Turkey. Emily was hanging on his every word, her eyes sparkling, playing the part of the adoring wife. They were so busy performing for me. They weren't really watching me. I waited. I needed a moment of distraction. The waiter, not Evan, a different one, came to refill our water glasses. This was my moment. As the waiter reached for Ryan's glass, I accidentally jerked my arm, my elbow connecting solidly with Ryan's full glass of water. Oh goodness, I exclaimed. Peter, honestly. Ryan snapped, jumping back as ice water flooded the white tablecloth and dripped onto his 1,000 pants. It was chaos for 5 seconds. Emily gasped. Dad. Ryan cursed under his breath, grabbing his napkin. The waiter rushed in with more napkins, apologizing profusely. In that 5 seconds of chaos, my hands moved. It was a simple, fluid motion I'd practiced in my mind a dozen times on the walk back from the lobby. My right hand picked up my tainted glass. My left hand picked up Emily's clean glass. I moved them both out of the way of the spill, and when I set them back down, they were reversed. It was done. I am so sorry, Ryan, I said, dabbing at the table with my own napkin. I guess I'm a little tired. My old age is catching up to me. It's fine, Dad, Papa, Ryan said, composing himself. He shared a knowing, triumphant look with Emily. They thought my clumsiness was the first scening. They thought their plan was working. They had no idea. The waiter finished cleaning up the mess and left. The tension was gone, replaced by their smug, predatory anticipation. I picked up my glass, Emily's original clean glass. Well, I said, raising it high, despite my clumsiness, I want to make a toast. They both raised their glasses. Emily was holding my original glass, the one containing the powder that was supposed to destroy my mind. To family, I said, looking directly into Emily's eyes, and to getting everything you deserve. To family, Emily echoed, smiling that brilliant fake smile. She took a large, confident sip. The next 15 minutes were the longest of my life. I ate my steak, or rather, I moved it around my plate. I listened to Ryan brag about a European expansion he was planning with my money. I assumed, and I watched Emily. It started suddenly. She blinked hard, as if trying to clear her vision from a fog. Ryan, she murmured, interrupting him mid-sentence. Honey, the lights, they seem very bright. Ryan chuckled, annoyed at being interrupted. It's Laronnerie. Darling, everything is bright. As I was saying, the Berlin market is no... Emily said. Her voice was thicker. She put her hand to her temple. Her words started to slur. I feel dizzy. Ryan, I don't feel well. Ryan's smile faded. He looked confused. His eyes darted to me, then back to her. Emily, stop playing. You've had one glass of wine. I'm not playing. She tried to shout, but it came out as a mumble. She tried to stand up, pushing her chair back with a scrape. The room, it's spinning. Her eyes rolled back in her head. She slumped sideways, her body hitting the plush velvet seat with a dull thud. Her arms began to twitch, a small, faint seizure. Ryan stared frozen in pure, unadulterated panic. I dropped my napkin and stood up my face, a mask of fatherly terror. Oh my God. Emily, somebody call 911. I let the silence hang for 3 full seconds. The entire restaurant, a room built on hushed tones, and the clinking of expensive crystal, was now dead quiet. Every eye was on our table. Ryan was staring at his wife, his mouth half open, his mind clearly not processing her collapse, but the collapse of his plan. He wasn't moving toward her. He wasn't crying out. He was frozen. That was my cue. I shoved my chair back, the heavy legs screaming against the polished marble floor. My God. Emily, I shouted. My voice cracked perfectly, a symphony of fatherly panic. I rushed to her side, grabbing her limp. Cold hand. Help. Somebody help call 911. My daughter, she's not breathing right. I grabbed Ryan's shoulder, shaking him hard. He was still staring, his face a mask of pale, stunned horror. Not grief, not fear for her, but the raw logistical terror of an accomplice whose scheme has just exploded in his face. Ryan, do something, I yelled, playing the part of the confused, terrified old man. Call an ambulance. Don't just sit there. This snapped him out of it, but not in the way a loving husband would. He didn't rush to Emily's side. He didn't check her pulse. He immediately, instinctively, tried to control the narrative. No, Ryan said, his voice a low, sharp hiss. He grabbed his own phone, but didn't dial. He looked at the restaurant manager who was approaching quickly, his face a mask of professional concern. No 911, Ryan insisted. She's fine. She's had too much to drink. I looked at him, my feigned confusion turning to feigned outrage. Drunk Ryan. She's convulsing. Look at her. She's shaking. Huh. She does this. Pee, Ryan said quickly, his eyes darting around the room, lying, building an alibi on the fly. She mixes her anxiety medication with wine. It happens all the time. It's embarrassing. He actually leaned down and tried to pull her up by the arm. We just need to get her home. I'm so sorry, everyone. He was trying to move her. He was trying to get her out of the public eye, away from EMTs who would run tests, away from neutral doctors at an emergency room who would run toxicology reports. He needed to get her to his doctor, the corrupt doctor, Reed, to get his plan back on track. I saw Evan,